Abby, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Good morning to you. Okay,
Hi.
we'll call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tooties, Jennifer Finley, here, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Thank you, Jen. Well, as always, we'll start with the prayer, and we have Mike. Mike, would you please lead us in a prayer? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Creator, in your all-powerful, all-knowing, and especially all-loving way, bless us as we do the work of our tribe today. Bring blessings basically to the personal intentions of everybody. Bring peace to the world, especially think of our children as they are getting into school in their events, and take care of them as they make them prosper as they move forward. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. We have our first order of business, the council minutes from August 24th. And Abby, on page 4, the top of the page, when we were talking about the Fish and Game Commission, the one sentence at the top of the page, would you please change commission to society that meets annually? And then on page 6, we're referencing the new need for a fire hall out in Rocky Point area, as referencing the Monticello Club. Please add that it may be owned by the county. Thank you. Bing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Abby, on page 3, can you put being Matt is the delegate to NAFWS? And not take out supposed. And on page 6, also, can you add tribal? Being Matt asked if a parcel of land, can you put tribal parcel?
Motion by Martin to approve the August 24th council minutes with corrections. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous? Oh, excuse me. One extension. Ellie's abstaining. We have our draft agenda, and we have one update from Louis on an incident from this past week, and we have one walk-in, 2 walk-ins. Is there any other additions to the agenda? Carol has one item. Okay. Any other changes or additions? See none, I would entertain a motion. Motion by Len to approve today's agenda with additions. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? See none, all's in favor? Unanimous. Okay, let's proceed with our first walk-in.
Mary,
Mary Whitsitt. Good morning. Come on up and grab a chair, and you'll have to push a button on the mic. Otherwise, our recorder can't hear. There you go. Got a red light. Good morning.
Okay, well, I'm not a member, so first out, thank you guys for giving me some time. And my disclaimer right off the bat is that I live in Hot Springs, but I'm not from there. I'm not from there. So my first winter staying there was 89, 90. And I had a daughter in kindergarten and a son in second grade. And I looked around and I'm going, there's nothing for kids here. And thought, well, I'll move over to the real world. Ronan School is where my kids went to school. We lived in a small salmon rental behind Chicken Horse Job Corps. It was the best decision of my life because I also had the privilege of going to school, going back to school in my 40s at Salish Kootenai. And so when I start talking about the teachers I had, they were saying, oh, you were there a long time ago. Yeah, I was in my 40s, I'm in my 70s now. And so I had the benefit of teachers like Ron Terrio. Mike Dolson got me through college algebra, my tutor Natani, Rachel Bowers, Pat Hurley, David Rockwell, Dwight Bilodeau, Carlos Rodriguez. So, you know, I probably shouldn't have taken environmental science because, you know, there's a lot of math in there. And then I never got a degree, but I got an education, and it was just so nice to be going to school and having the benefit of all that great education. And so kind of what prompted me to come here, and this is from the quarterly meeting, the time before last, and I don't know how to say her name. Is it Nancy Bond, or is it, do you pronounce it G?
Yeah, Nancy Bond.
Bond, okay. Because she's talking about 60s activism. So right away I resonated with her. And then she had this pretty ambitious suggestion to like put up gates to the entrances and have checkpoints, which, you know, that would be ideal. But, you know, from living in the Hot Springs area and also just from hearing people that are more acquainted with outside of town, I wanted to kind of bring a little report from the west end of the rest, which is we're kind of isolated in some ways, and say that, you know, from what I'm seeing both on and off the reservation is what I call, you know, and all of us that are not from tribes are all originally immigrants at some point in time, but now there's a kind of wave of what I call immigrants. A lot of the people that are coming to our borders, I call them refugees, you know, because some of them are really, they're really hard pressed to like even stay alive or, you know, but the immigrants, I call them immigrants because they come, you know, with means, buying land, they see advantages for themselves. And so like if I was looking for somebody who moved out of town, I'm going, did you live up Hauser Road? Where is that landslide that has the goats and the Great Pyrenees? But then I stop at a house and the woman is saying, because I'm a curious and basic kind of a person, so I say, well, are you a man? Are you Amish? Or, and she says Orthodox, which I take that to mean like Russian Orthodox. And so I do a little bit of freelance anthropological excursions. I was visiting, you know, a church that was kind of Mennonite Amish, and you know, there seemed to be moving into, okay, so I know the tribes have a really good together buyback program. And right now, the people, a lot of the renters my age and up, they're buying or they're selling, and they don't have a son or a daughter, somebody who wants to carry that on. So, okay, so I'm pretty sure that you guys are aware of tracts of land. You're doing, your best to prioritize what works for you. But what I'm noticing is a lot of just the old home places, a smaller parcel, maybe you're not thinking that's significant, but they're filtering in. And so you thought we were bad, they had no sense of place. Therefore, they don't know how to respect because they don't really, just there and they're gonna do okay, but they have their churches. And then there's a couple of new people that are offering to buy up in anybody's land, and they're both from some kind of niche religions. Oh my goodness, they have the means to, they're leasing what land they can't buy, and what they're saying, there's changeover happening. Because, the ranchers, they're on the front lines of this climate change, and I was an environmental science student, so thanks a lot for that. It was kind of, I think I have reality on it. There is a trajectory and it's not real promising. So Nancy, if you guys watch out for the little pieces that are gonna clutter up with being sold, there's that. Okay, and so, so, I have been in that Hot Springs area for a long time and traveled up West Road, which is pretty far out. And I remember when I first, moved there was red-winged blackbirds. This picture is from October 2019. So the songbirds and the threat to habitat, like there used to be a slough practically on campus that was full of redwings. And then what I learned about wetlands in the wetlands class was, one of the environmental classes was that wetlands are self-effacing because the cattails will eventually choke it off. And so some people don't understand, but I think I get that you guys are doing proactive things on so many fronts, social and environmental and everything, that you can't just throw money at every little thing that goes by. But I know from being at that school that you graduate a bunch of rock stars in your natural resources department. And that what I learned from Carlos Rodriguez's class, with the stream bed reclamation, was that whenever there's grant money, like government money, then the ranchers will, have this restoration stuff going on the property. And so maybe, without having to take the lead on some of this stuff, your people could just kind of keep an eye open for any government money. I know it's an uphill battle. I saw the legislature this last year. I know who we got in there. I know they gave you guys a really hard time. And so I don't know what the prospects are, but I don't really know the landscape that well, but just that you're doing a really great job, and that there's benefits kicked down to our community, and that some of me and my peer group that relocated we're like refugees too from development. And so when you can read in the Charcusta that one of the Lake County commissioners is really upset that Elmo didn't extend their sewer line to accommodate non-tribal development, essentially. We're going, all right, maybe there won't be condos all around that lakeshore there in that little community. Maybe the benefits of things that Lake County might not like that. We're going, all right, because we come from places like outside of Denver where way back it was navigable. And anyway, I could go on, but you'll probably be thankful that I'll just cut it right there. And thank you so much for what you're doing. And
Thank you, Mary.
yeah, okay.
Good to hear from you. We
Okay.
share all those same concerns, Mary.
Okay, do I push this button to
Yep.
turn it off? Oh, I was really a bad computer science student.
There you go. Thank you.
Jim Taylor,
Jim, good to see you again. Come on up.
I started working here in 1996, and one of the first people that I met here was Bob Stahl, who was the law clerk for the tribal court at that time. And I don't know how many of you knew him, some of you did, some of you maybe didn't, but anyway, he was a law clerk for 20 years. He finally had to retire in 2014 because his wife had a variety of health problems, including dementia. And so he was home taking care of her until she died last October. And Bob also came down with cancer. And then his brother came down with cancer. His brother passed in April of this year, and then Bob passed in May. And I handed out his obituary for everybody. And one of the last conversations I had with Bob, I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him the last 6 months of his life. He wanted me to come here and tell you that the work that he did with the tribal council, he felt was the most important work he'd ever done in his professional life. And he had quite a career. And so that's all. I just wanted to come and tell you that, and how much he appreciated working here and working with the tribal people and working with the tribal court and helping with some of the legal issues the court faced.
Well, thank you for following through with that, Jim, and sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Because he was a great individual.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I miss him a lot. Anyway, thanks to all of you for your work, and
Yeah, good. Carol?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when I first learned of Bob Stahl, I wasn't sure what his position was, but then after a while, I learned that our tribal court finally moved up to another level.
Yeah.
Because really, that's what it takes, is to have that people in the background doing the research, the legwork, all of that for the judges, and it really did. It really brought our tribal court to another level. But thank you for sharing. It means a lot. I mean, when I
Sure.
seen that he passed it, I felt really saddened. And
Yeah.
wow, what a
Yeah.
big loss. So
he was a
thank you.
great individual. He was an incredible scholar too. I mean, he had so many interests. He was an artist. He was a painter. He and I took up blacksmithing together about 4 or 5 years ago, and we would get together every week and, pound on hot metal. And he just wanted to learn hunting. I hunted all my life, and Bob and I were going to go hunting last fall. He didn't draw any tags, but I had some antelope tags. And he wanted to come along, and we had a trip planned for opening weekend. And then that weekend, his wife went into the hospital and died just a couple of days later. So he never got to go, which was a big regret for him, but just an amazing man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Thanks. Good to see you all.
Yep. Yep. Yay, I think we'll move into executive session for Louis' update. Morning, CT. You guys got out there doing black line right now, right? Putting it all out.
No news is good news.
Good news is good news.
Start with Nirata. They're doing a little bit of rehab on that. Michael Humphreys, the IC up there, taking care of some lines. Middle Ridge, same thing. Kyle Stevens and Johnny Keenan are in charge of that fire. And then, as you saw today's update, Division of Fire will be taking over Big Knife at 6 a.m. And Robert Burney, who you guys met for the Nirata fire, will be at the IC for that fire. Any questions on those 3 fires?
Got a question on the communication butte fire.
Oh, Communication Butte, yep.
Was there charges filed against that one individual?
Not yet. it takes a little process. There'll be a trespass. Shane, we'll bring that to Shane and then Shane will take that.
What's the status over on Clear Creek? For the
Oh, the
river fire?
River Road East Fire is, just, let me see, they had 670 acres on the reservation and what's his name? God, I'm losing it. The IC over there, he used to be work at Plains, but we worked a lot with him with that RTRL projects, things like that. But he's the IC over there and it was pretty slow. I mean, it's pretty slow over there on our end.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, CT on that fire, the tribes had a parcel of land just on the reservation boundary there, had a cabin on it. Do you know if the cabin survived the fire?
I didn't hear about a cabin burning. I didn't hear any structures burning on our end.
Yeah, I don't think any structures on reservations.
No.
Died, burned up,
No.
just all those, some houses up McLaughlin Creek,
Yeah,
some stuff down lower.
Yeah, there's 30 to 40 structures
We
on
want to
their
place
side.
off the res? Oh, I didn't know that.
I missed that. Leonard, what was that?
There's a 40-acre parcel that's right on the res boundary in McLaughlin Creek that has a cabin on it. And so that was the cabin I was inquiring about.
Okay, I can follow up on that. I'll find that out for you. Pfister's his name.
Go ahead, Ben.
Travis Pfister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PT, I was up on that fire up at in South Fork on Friday. And we drove around up through there and pretty much everything was out, but there was a lot of fire, spots that were smoldering and stumps, roots, pieces of wood here and there was burning. But other than that, there was no large fires at all that we seen up there when we were up there. And we went through up Eagle Lakes, we went down through Whitehorse, and everything was the same.
Okay.
So I was just wondering if crews could, we'd be setting up there to put out them little hot spots like that here and there, up through there, a couple of crews could probably put them out and.
Yeah, I know Bernie will be, assessing that. I did talk to the PIOs that took you up there yesterday. We had our little closeout yesterday with the Megan and Jackie. They said they took you and another individual up there. I know Bernie will, look at firefighter safety. That's the worst time to go in there after the fires come through, to get to some of those because they're snags. Those trees have killed, firefighters before. So I'm sure if they do send someone in there, make sure it's safe. Maybe have a falling team go through there and fall some of those trees first before they throw crews in there.
Yeah, that ridge up there on coming off of Eagle Lakes, that's pretty well burned up through there. Everything gone.
Yeah.
Up there, but rest of it down in the bottom there, where here and there down through there, it's burned, but it's not really bad. There was one of those
Maybe
couple
just
of
cleared it
spot
out.
fires that were below the road that we put out because they were still hot, and they hadn't burned down below the road yet, so we went ahead and put them out up there before we come out.
I'm sure you guys have seen the precipitation we're expecting tonight. Yeah. Significant.
I watched the other bus.
You bought another bus just to wash it.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did they confirm that the railroad was the cause of the?
They haven't
River Road?
confirmed yet, that probably won't come out till later, but everything we heard, but is the grapevine. The day, because our guys responded to it, Big R and some of our Oklahoma guys were first over there and some floaters had seen the train go through with sparks and then smoke, so we'll see.
Probably a coal car. Right? Yeah, the oil train.
Any other questions?
Questions for CT? seeing any.
All right, we'll just keep you advised on what's going on with Big Knife.
Well, remind those guys to get aggressive. It looks pretty safe now.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can put her to bed, right?
Yep,
All right.
should be the week to
Thanks.
put it to bed. Okay, thanks. Okay, next up is Mel. But probably early on that one. We did get the resolution from Brian Upton. And yeah, I took we could go through that too, yeah. But just quickly, the resolution, if you want to look at that, Mike mentioned that, you know, as part of the training, we could prove the resolution, and the training component could be an annual training and then a virtual training for new board members as they come on specific to each different board. That would be the content of the type of training we'd be looking at. So if everybody likes that training resolution, we could adopt it right now. Yeah, thank you. The details of the training would be as Mike suggested, and I think that's a good idea. You don't have to put that in the resolution. That would be our, yeah, go ahead, Martin.
I think Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to, with probably if they're incorrection.
Motion by Martin to approve the resolution for tribal council board positions. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Okay, Lynn. Okay, unanimous. Okay, so let's look at the questions for the Ellie will, huh? Yeah, we'll go into executive. Based on our applicant pool and interview process, I would entertain a motion to select Kelly McDonald for the Chief Justice position in our appellate court. Motion by Jennifer. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous? Thank you. Good job, Mel. Go ahead, Carol.
With it being the chief judge, we might advise that she really do look at the process, procedures of the court. Make sure she has a good understanding. I don't think that's a bad message to send to
Hey,
someone.
Mom. Oh, shit.
Well, the Pinkerton company was like your first big private detective agency that did security for the railroads. Pinkerton man. Okay. I think Jim's got it all cleaned up. Dana, good morning.
Morning, Dana.
Morning,
Hey,
George.
good morning. Are we on?
You are.
Okay, I'll quit screaming at my mom for you all to hear.
We heard that.
Well, had a good vacation, but came back with a broken rib, so taking it a little bit easy this week. But it was still worth it, I'd say.
Oh, did you go rafting with the crocodiles and that's what happened, or what?
Not quite as exciting as that, just surfing and ended up with a broken rib. I thought it was just a regular soreness from surfing twice a day, but it just didn't go away. And finally, upon my mom's advice, decided to go see a doctor, and sure enough, my rib is cracked, so. I'm gonna share my screen here. And actually, I'm gonna put two things in the chat for you guys to look at too, if you'd like to look at these. And actually, I don't think I can share my screen, for some reason. Maybe I can shoot that to Jennifer and you can share it, Jennifer?
Okay.
Okay. That was just fired off, but what we're here to talk about today, Tribal Council, is just what we've been up to with food sovereignty and building the program, where we're at, some of our priorities going forward. And then we also have a we also have a request for the new funding cycle for Headwaters that we'd like to visit with you guys about. So we'll get started, and as soon as we pull up that PowerPoint, I will get into it. Great, thank you. All right, so that's a cool sort
Jordan,
of metal
can you use your
sculpture out
mouse?
by Colville Reservation. So as we've been talking in the past, we've been thinking like the Petsay or the Root Digger would be a good logo for our program, but we haven't really branded our program yet. We were waiting to talk with the culture committees and elders to do that, but thought that would be a good way to start it off. So next slide.
Jordan,
Yes.
I put you a remote control. Use your mouse and see if you can move it. You can move it because I'm not using this slide.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so just to give everyone a reminder of kind of how we're funded and structured, Headwaters provides the foundation for our program. It provides the base funding for 4.5 FTEs, emergency hire workers that we use for the distributions and any other things that come up, and then 2 support contractors. And so we're really firing on all cylinders right now, really thanks to Headwaters funding. The goal in the funding was to launch a local healthy food distribution pilot program serving tribal elders. And I'd say that has been a success. We're serving around 200 tribal elders a week, twice a week, and they're getting local, fresh, healthy soup that Kat and her staff make out at the Food Sovereignty Center at Kicking Horse. So from all accounts, that's really well received. The elders are really liking that soup, and hopefully I get to try some next week with you all, and we'll get into that here at the end. The other goal was to try to identify pathways for a permanent program housed within the tribe. Currently, the program is housed in the executive office, and that seems to be working well for now. The Indian Collective Grant is another grant that we received, and that one is until 2024. This funds the local food specialist, and so really is helping get our tribal foods into our tribal food system. Right now, we're finishing up gardening season, and from all the pictures and things I'm seeing, that is just booming with fresh vegetables that we're getting out into the community. And then in the fall, we're going to be transitioning into supporting our natural resources department with its wild game depredation and administrative hunts program, and getting that into our communities. The First Nations Gather Grant is really a grant that we use for educational efforts, and we've done huckleberry gatherings so far, and there's a few more things on the horizon with that. And then just recently, we got news that the USDA Local Food Purchase Agreement Grant, we had one that we worked with Mission West and SKC Extension Office on, and we received about $200,000 for that piece. And then there was a tribal specific piece, and we were just received notification that we were awarded around $910,000 for that. So that was really exciting news. And that's for really purchasing local foods and distributing that in food boxes. And so we'll be doing a lot more food box distribution with local healthy foods. Here's sort of a graphic to help visualize what I just said. And so if you look down there at the base program, there's Headwaters supporting our 4.5 FTEs. And then the Elder Soup program is also funded by Headwaters. And then the other initiatives, you can see the Garden and Wild Game, Indian Collective, Education, First Nations Institute, Gather Grant, and then the food box distribution is USDA. And there's a lot of sort of intermingling of activities. I mean, we're not focusing education completely on the First Nations Gather Grant. Like, we're certainly incorporating education into our garden network. We're in our food box distribution, we're incorporating recipes and education around some of those foods. So they're not mutually exclusive, but really when I think about what each grant is geared towards, this is what I'm thinking about. So as we know, when we first started the food sovereignty initiative, COVID hit, and under COVID CARES Act funding, we had to focus on food security. That was very, very clear. We had to focus on food security and things that would meet immediate food security needs. And so we were really limited in what we could fund with that. And so infrastructure was a big one, going out to community centers and upgrading those to make sure each community had a good storage, cooking, serving, distribution capacity. The food distribution was purchasing food to get out into the community and then making sure we had folks to do the work. Now we're really transitioning into food sovereignty. And so it was really a good day, I think, in May. We had our food sovereignty team meet with our food sovereignty staff and talk about what that means to us. And so Oneida has a really good model. Oneida has been doing food sovereignty for about 50 years. So they have a lot of experience, a lot of good stories to share. And NCAI has really highlighted their program to show best practices and lessons learned. So we took the Oneida model, talked about it, and really talked about what that would look like to be a CSKT model. And then we put all the activities that we're currently doing on different poster boards with each of these headings and identified 3 top priorities for each. And so I'm going to go through each of these different categories and talk about some of what we've been doing, but really the top 3 priorities that we'd like to do in the future. So the first is build a community mindset for healthy foods. And so you can have all the healthy food in the world, but unless you have a community mindset to eat those foods, it's not going to make any difference. And so we've been participating in activities that have hopefully supported building a community mindset for healthy foods with gardening classes. Every day before you get out in the garden, you have about an hour of classes. The youth workers were really out in the gardens every day, learning about that type of activity, learning about the healthy foods, learning how to garden. Community events, I know Dana goes out to different events, health fairs, and works with the education department for different things. We've been working with schools to get more healthy foods into those, and we'd like to do a lot more of that. And then healthy food distributions with recipes. And I think we're all aware of the food boxes, and those are all local, organic produce. And I'm always blown away by the quality of the food. I'm a big fan of those apples and the elk meat and beef that we get with those. The top 3 priorities that we've identified going forward is communications, to try to have a paradigm shift around healthy food language, and just how do you start talking about it in a way where it's not scary? It's just sort of a natural thing, because we used to always eat healthy food. And so with our food system being disrupted, how do we sort of demystify just eating quality, healthy foods again. Outreach, this is really, I think, education, providing classes on foraging, preserving, canning, and the cultural stories and connections with the foods. And how do we start bringing that back to our communities? And there's a lot of different programs already doing things like that. And so I think partnership will be a big part of this priority. And then gardening, we also identified gardening. When we talked about this was back in May when the gardens were first starting. And so we've had a season under our belt now. And so we've gained traction and included the youth, but I think we'd like to continue doing that down the road. So the first thing is to build a community mindset. The second is increased local cultivation and food production. And so we've already started doing that. When we first started, we were completely dependent on Western Montana Growers Co-op to provide us for our foods. Now we're growing our own foods. We're partnering with Natural Resources Department to receive more of their wild game and fish from fish keepers. When we talked with Natural Resources Department, there was a bottleneck because programs could only purchase as much as their budgets allowed for. And so with food sovereignty really being able to purchase more of that game and hopefully providing more support to Natural Resources Department with our local food specialists, we're hoping this season can really ramp up the wild game distributions and then purchasing local foods. It's really, I think, important to keep doing that with a lot of that funding. I mean, we have $1.1 million to purchase local foods. So if we can support our local economy and continue to provide support for our local growers, that's going to help. So our top 3 priorities, again, is just support the NRD's depredation and administrative hunt efforts. That's going to be good for our treaty rights, but it's also going to be good for our tribal membership. Gardens, that's another big priority. But how do we start taking the gardens, which is really community oriented, and if you're working there to get food, and we're distributing that, I know, to different programs and Boys and Girls Club, but if we're trying to really provide local food for our local community, everyone is in agreement that we should be aiming for a farm eventually. And then third is increased tribal member knowledge. We can do a lot from a tribal level, but it's also going to be important to increase our individual capacity as tribal members. And so those educational opportunities around harvesting, preparing, preserving, that's going to all be important going down the road. The third step, and so these are all sort of individual initiatives, but they're tiered, they scaffold upon another. And so it really is a nice model. As I've learned more and more about what Oneida is doing, it's integrating all of the programs that they have into this sort of model, and it really works well together. And so the third is build local food economies. And this is just really providing avenues to get your food into the community, to sell food, providing markets like Oneida's, for instance, have a big apple festival. They have an apple orchard, and so they have a big apple festival every year. They have farmers markets. And so we really are at, I'd say, square one in this category, because as you've seen, your food sovereignty program is completely dependent on grants. And so currently we purchase local foods, which, like I said before, supports the local economy. But how do we really start building a local food economy? So the top 3 priorities we've identified is starting to create revenues. When we visited the Livingston Food Resource Center, that was really eye-opening to me, because they generate around $30,000 a month selling bread to offset their costs. And so how do we start doing that ourselves? Well, in the short term, I think we can start selling soups. We're already producing a lot of soups for our elders. And so if we could just provide a few extra soups for sale in the community, I would love to buy the soups. I heard folks at Kicking Horse would be open to that. That might be an easy one to start with and to start to see how that works. So we're having our attorneys look into what's required if we're selling soups, and hopefully we can start doing that soon. Midterm is utilizing the tribal purchasing power to buy in bulk and then distribute to tribal programs. We've seen other tribes use their entire tribal purchasing power from all their departments, and they've been able to reduce costs by up to 20%. Generally between 10 and 20% is the numbers we've heard. And so if you're buying a whole bunch rather than, 10 different programs purchasing, you can experience a lot of cost savings that way. And then long term, we'd like to start providing our own food to our own programs and selling it. Our programs already have budgets, and so if we could start selling produce from the tribal farm, for instance, to tribal departments, tribal schools, and tribal businesses, that would really be, I think, a win for us because we could start generating revenues, but also a win for our tribal departments and kiddos by getting that really quality, healthy, local food. And then long term, it's always been in my mind to have sort of a tribal roadside restaurant, nothing too fancy. The ones I've really appreciated, they offer 2 or 3 things a day. And I just know 93 has millions of people going down the road. And if they could have a tribal soup or tribal sandwich, I think that could really help offset some of our costs. But again, that's pretty long term down the road. And then support for our tribal producers through policy and education training. I know that when we think about a tribal farm and even the gardens, we're already educating our tribal membership. And if we could just build upon that, and how do you start selling this stuff to create a living? I think that would be helpful. And or even just offsetting our own food costs by incorporating more of those local foods into our diets would be really helpful. So those are the top 3 priorities we've identified in that category. Number 4 is integrate local healthy food into the community. So here's where it's all really coming together, where you're going to have local food, but how do we start eating that local food and having it? And so we're already engaged in quite a bit of this. I mean, we have delivered thousands of local healthy food boxes to our community. We're already providing healthy soups to 200 tribal elders twice a week. And then the garden network is flooding our community with that really good quality produce and also teaching folks how to do that. And our top 3 priorities are really just building upon that, continue to help support our elders with that soup. Right now, it's been a challenge, and maybe Dana can talk more about that, but just to just develop a Meals on Wheels program has been challenging. So Tribal Health has really stepped up and supported us. And so we're continuing to think about the best way to move forward with our soup deliveries. Our kids, we've done some education, but I think it's really the next step would be to provide food to our tribal schools, early childhood services. When you look at Oneida, their goal was to have 20% of their tribal schools have tribal foods on their menus. And so, right now, I think we're probably at 0%. And so we could start working our way up from there. And then upgrade our mobile food distribution capacity. We have 1 van, and then we have a fleet of tribal workers. And so we need another tribal vehicle to help us with our distributions. And then finally, ensure CSKT food development and practices are aligned with CSKT values. So this one really permeates over everything. And so activities that we're already engaged in, I'm always really proud that 100% of our food sovereignty program is made up of tribal membership, both on staff and our food sovereignty team. We're doing 44E ordinance review with Natural Resources Department, Legal Department. Dana goes to those meetings. And then tribal department collaborations. We've done a lot of collaborating with other tribal departments. Our top 3 priorities, the big one is we'd like to schedule meetings with our cultures and elders committees to co-create a vision for the future of CSKT food sovereignty. What do our elders feel like is the future of food sovereignty? What does that look like? And also, we're trying to create who we are, both with a name and a logo. And so we'd like to visit with our culture committees about that. Begin thinking about how food and all policies looks at tribes. It is, when you look at Oneida, like all of their tribal departments are working towards the same goal. And so if we're doing something, but a lot of our other departments aren't, it wouldn't be as effective if we're all on the same page. And so we have our task force set up. It's been a while since we've met, but I'm just continue to think about how we can work cohesively as a whole tribal organization. And then create organic zones. And how do we really want to define what healthy food is for CSKT? when you talk about organic, that can be from absolutely no pesticides whatsoever and no farming on anything a pesticide has touched within 5 years, to a lot more lenient type of rules. And so what does CSKT want to define that as we continue our gardening and our hopefully farm efforts? So with that, the next steps, our funding for Headwaters is running out, and they're currently thinking about the next funding cycle. And so we've shot over a proposed budget to tribal council, and we were hoping that you guys could approve that, or if you have anything you want to change or add to that, that would be helpful as well. And then normally when we ask for grant funding, it comes with a tribal resolution. This has been a lot more informal, and so just really looking for council guidance on if you guys would like to send a letter, if you'd like to send a resolution, or what that would look like for you all. I sent over the budget, and so there's two sort of things we're really in need of. One is an HVAC system. We have a lot of storage area, but no climate control in that section. So there's a, I've heard that SNK might be working on that, but we need to kind of get that going. And then the other thing in there is a van. And so I put either or there for your guys' consideration. So that would probably be the first thing on the list. And I know I rattled off a lot. And so if you guys have any questions or comments.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Thank you, Jordan and Dana. You know, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned to you about some other initiatives within our program here, and that is to think about donating some land, so we're able to possibly start marketing some of the products, so we can start the process of trying to be sustainable at some point in time, you know. And so we asked the lands department if they would work with you guys if we could find some. I'm not sure. I know Mark mentioned one parcel down at, I think it was the Bison Springs Ranch. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that yet, Dana, to see if that was something that was doable in the food sovereignty program. If that's something we want to jump right into. I don't know. But I just think that, you know, when it comes to food sovereignty, I think this council needs, we just need to go all in because of the importance of the food sovereignty concept. We got to start trying to figure out how we're going to feed all of our people if it were to come to that, you know. You know, you really think about it. What if Safeway, Walmart, and all these grocery stores shut down? Then where are we? That's reality. It could truly happen. And so that's why I'm a big supporter of your guys' program, and well, I would just really like us to look at creating a budget that we can include every year on our budgeting cycle, that so we know that this program will be continuous and grow. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. And so we probably need to look at possibly a bigger budget so we can start thinking big. So just my thoughts.
Thanks, Len. One question for you, Jordan, I guess, and Adina would be, you talked about working with other departments. Have you worked with those departments' programs that are part of the 477 network? Push them.
Can you hear me? Which are the 477 tribes?
Well, that's
Or
workforce
477.
development, it's Department of Labor, it's,
I've sent
Human
some
Health and
emails
Services.
over and we're getting on a bulk rehab worker, and we had summer youth all summer. We had 7 summer youth out there. And then I sent an email last week, telling Tracy that we are open to be a placement for those who are interested. So we have a lot of room. I mean, we should be like divisions, not just staff people. So we could put a lot of people to work, but we just don't have the budget to do it ourselves.
Yeah, my understanding is that they can help with your budget beyond just placement of workers.
Hmm.
They can actually help set up stores. They can do all kinds of things. It's training and in my discussion with they're doing a 477 program review this week here with the tribes. So in my conversations with the gentleman doing the review on Monday morning, I was quite surprised at the extent that they can do and participate for economic development, food security, all these things that you guys are working on. I could see a direct correlation between your programs and the opportunity for us to fully exhaust the 477 programs. Carol?
Yeah, we learned the same thing down at Tawahi and all the funding that'll be available for that too. And I'm surprised Jordan didn't catch on that one, or he didn't have knowledge of it, or maybe he does. I don't know. Anyway, there is money available, and that's, first of all, I think we need to do a plan though, Jordan. So that you might want to be a part of that planning discussion and get in there on the ground floor and talk with Patricia Hibbler on it. But I think it's exciting. I just didn't get the concept of what Len was talking about is donating land. I mean, to me, I really like the concept of having all these gardens in the community. Because eventually, you know, if there is a food shortage, people are gonna start pitching in. I mean, I've got a garden and it brings out lots of food, and I wished I had more onions, certain things, but now next year I know. But, you know, so I wasn't sure the concept of maybe a ranch. Is that what you're looking for? A ranch style home
Well,
to?
I mean, as we grow and continue to grow, I mean, I don't envision this stopping anytime soon, but I would not ever give up on those community gardens.
No.
Because it's nothing more beautiful than being able to walk across the street or
Yep.
go over and gather something and then say, oh, we're gonna make this today. But in addition to that, I think if we were to have a farm that could be for economic development, we could actually have crops that we could sell into the market and then
Yeah,
and bring in revenue. So and this is like in 3 weeks, I've like started dreaming about this. I wasn't even thinking about that far yet, but the gardens would still kind of feed the people. And then in addition to that, we can do a lot of other things with the farm. We haven't
Like
even gotten
through the
into egg
store.
productions. We haven't even gotten into, you know, like chickens or anything like that yet. So, I mean,
And there is that place we just bought that we have Second Circle housed in. Maybe there's land that goes along with that. That might be an ideal place right here in Pablo that. Yeah, isn't that where Second Circle, I don't even know where it's at or anything, but.
It's
usually
that
Pablo-
part of the land we just bought to the south, west of
Pablo
Pablo.
has some good soils, I believe. And so something centrally located, like right here, like employees could take some time off and go over and would feed the garden or something.
I think at the farm, you would be like,
Chickens, everything.
yeah. We could do something probably. The one that I didn't get, I saw a long time ago, that Bison Springs. What I do know about that, because Terrence went out and checked it out. There's equipment that's there. So there's some stuff we wouldn't have to invest in that's already there. There's equipment and 2 miles. That's a good one too. So, I mean, but we need to do the feasibility. Absolutely. It's like, I don't imagine me and Kat and Vanessa and Terrence running the farm too. Lots, yeah. Acquiring, you know, identifying one of the farms that we recently acquired or one in the future. I know there's one we're buying on McDonald Lake Road here in the near future. That's a great idea for a production farm besides the community gardens, but you know, enough can't be said about the great things about community gardens and having those dispersed out and people learning how to garden.
and bringing that home with their own hands and sharing that with the community. The efforts there is really important. I wondered when we think about production farms, if we wouldn't look at the geothermal resources of the Hot Springs area for greenhouse productions that could be utilized year round. So we could produce tomatoes year round, or those other things that would come also important for that commercial market that you might want to expand into. That might be something you might want to think about. There certainly would be a lot of opportunity there. So greenhouse productions would be something I would be certainly interested in seeing you look at, Jordan and Dana. As far as locations for pop-up, selling, I still would advocate for anybody that wants to pop up at Ravalli Hill Scenic Turnout during the summertime, and you could sell soup and veggies there as much as you want. That might be a good spot. There certainly are. As we think about that type of a spot, please consider all the tribal member vendors that might be able to be part of that endeavor of a highway, a commercial site, that we'd be able to expand that to benefit a lot of our tribal membership, whether it's arts and crafts, beadwork, whatever it might be. That would be a great thing to be able to do.
Just because it's been on my mind for about a decade. I've envisioned before I even did this position of having multiple sites like that along the highway. And then you can rotate vendors that come in, so you wouldn't always just have a fry bread stand at this lot, but you can change and have different tribal member vendors. And then you can just rotate throughout the week. So, however that would be. And it could be other kind of vendors as well. So now I've actually verbalized it. So now it's going to happen.
The utilization of the native fish keepers and some of their product that you might be able to expand, and mark, to grab that from them and market it yourself as part of your sustainability. Because right now they just market that throughout the entire state. They have more of a demand than their supply can fill. But I think they can easily expand their whitefish harvest if they wanted to. That could be just one of those things that could be additive to what you're offering, and you could be the distributor for that here locally, if you want to think about it.
We're also going to dip our feet into selling some of our produce we are growing this year. For our next LFPA boxes, we're going to put in squash and tomatoes. So that'll be our first little, I'm like, please, tomatoes don't die, or whatever. No frost, please, because I already said we do it. So that'll be our first kind of attempt at getting everything we're doing is like, oh, let's do it this little bit, and then it just works well. So we're going to try it this time. And then in the LFPA grant that we got, and then we'll start that after this one's expended in December or January. We're going to purchase our own bison from ourselves. So then we'll be able to get some revenue from that as well. So we're gonna buy the carcass and have it processed, and then from that we'll be able to buy bison for the people.
Mike, then Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many local producers, tribal producers have you identified, and what kind of assistance are you giving them?
I've worked a lot with the Western Montana grower, or Jan Tusak, and she's who I talked to about the producers. I don't particularly know them. I haven't identified them. I've been kind of up to my eyeballs in zucchini, but we're working on it. Everything is a challenge, and it's always a learning curve. So and I know there's not enough. There's absolutely not enough. So we need to really get more younger people involved in thinking about that as a career. I was really excited this summer. We had 7 summer youth, and I had 3 that already have a plan for next year of having their own cash crop, and are considering going into ag for higher ed. So those are really, that's important to get our younger people to consider that. Everybody doesn't need to work for the tribe, or, there's all kinds of things we can do. So that's.
Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman. Dana, I just love the work that you're doing. I think you're doing such amazing things for the whole community. And You know, and we're Facebook friends, so I know that you really are taking this to heart, and I see you posting pictures of all these like beautiful, healthy meals that you're cooking, and it's really inspiring. And, you know, and knowing that you weren't like a lifelong gardener, that you learned how to do all this stuff. So, you know, it's inspired me personally, because next year I want to grow a garden, not a food garden, just a flower garden. I've never gardened before. And I thought maybe I could do this. It seems really daunting. So I think you inspire a lot of people more than you know, in more ways than you know.
Oh, thank you.
And I really like what Jordan said too about it's something that seems obvious, but I never thought of it before. He said we've always eaten healthy foods.
Mhm.
And I think that's an important part of the messaging, is that we always have, and this Western diet is really new to us, relatively new to us. But again, it seems really daunting to go to like a whole foods diet or something like that.
Mhm.
It seems like a really big shift, but it is more along the lines of exactly how we've always eaten.
Mhm.
It's what our bodies are designed to eat. So I think you guys have a lot of great ideas. I love that you guys are going to start selling soups. Maybe you could sell them here in the complex. I would buy that for lunch, for sure. And I love your idea of a restaurant someday. I think just lots of great ideas. And, you know, one thing that I'm also interested in that I've never really done is composting. And, you know, so if you offered a class on how to compost, I would love that.
We do a really awesome compost that you can have it in 7 weeks.
Wow.
And it doesn't include it doesn't get, I mean, it's really good. And then for Montana, that's really, yeah, it's cool. Thank you. I don't know if you guys heard it loud enough, but on Thursday from 4 to 7, we're having an open house. And you can have a cup of soup that is going to be homemade. We'll have several varieties. We'll also have some vegetables from the garden and some bison sort of maybe meatball. We told Kat this morning, so we don't know what that menu for sure is. So I'm really excited I want to personally invite you all to come and make it out there on Thursday. So see what we're doing. And
Is that in the Charcusta?
I missed the Charcusta. It's going to be on the email to all. It's going to be all over all of your Facebook pages, all over my Facebook pages, all over everybody's Facebook pages. And you can call your grandmas. And I missed the Charcusta. I called yesterday.
From what time to what time?
4 to 7.
4 to 7?
And that's still going to probably still going to have the detour. So I have that on our flyer to take Eagle Pass Road. What's that?
The bridge is out still.
It says it's going to be done the 7th or that week, the 8th, unless they get done early.
Cool. Any more comments or questions go ahead, Jordan.
So kind of going back to our proposed budget for Headwaters, that, like I said, is the baseline for everything that we do. And so that will be, we'll be spending that out by the end of September. And so we would like to have council approve that budget request and decide if that would be in the form of a letter or a resolution.
How did it happen before?
It kind of a process where Headwaters had an Indian committee and they said, we would really like to support food sovereignty. And then the tribes had the resolutions and said, hey, we really would like to focus on food sovereignty. And so it's just sort of a interest convergence there. And so it just happened organically. But that was a little bit outside of how normally these types of things work.
Okay, since they don't have a requirement, I would just suggest that we approve your request and send an accompanying letter or the chair's signature.
Yeah, I'll put that
Would
together
Lynn-
if that's the plan. Yep.
Say, Jordan, I was just looking over this budget here and I seen under capital equipment, you had a HVAC or a van. Any reason why you just could not include both?
To continue at the current level of funding, we would probably just need to pick one or the other. And then Len, Councilman Two Teeth, getting into the farm feasibility, and I know USDA has a lot of opportunities for support on feasibility studies, and so we could look to see if they have opportunities there. But above and beyond that base level funding, that gets into unmet need. And so that's where, if tribal council wanted to support the program, we could really look and see if council could support those things. And so just keeping it at the current level, we'd need to choose one or the other.
Okay,
Just-
understood.
Just one footnote, Jordan, I would hope that you had conversations with your other executive team members about the HVAC installations, because there was a bunch of that going in. And, so I would hope that you would know about that before you make that request. Carol?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Lisa's got how many, $10 million
there's a whole bunch of
worth
them.
of
Yeah.
HVAC systems going in, and I'm surprised Jordan.
No,
know,
we
wasn't
know about it.
getting on
It's,
the
we know
list.
about the office ones. Is it gonna be an HVAC system that's gonna be food safe?
I would call Lisa and tell her what you need, instead of assuming that, well, I'm not sure this way or that way. I think if she knew, she would definitely be on top of it and get the right kind of HVAC before she orders them or whatever whoever orders them.
Any other comments? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a good choke cherry season. Lots of choke cherries out there looking really good. Are you gonna pick any of those?
I hope so. Yeah. I absolutely do canning. I just canned some pickles 2 nights ago. No, I did them at home, but I'm gonna, we just got our canning equipment yesterday.
Okay,
the
I was
center.
gonna do some beets.
Oh, that's my favorite. My
But-
favorite. We're gonna be doing meats. Anytime you wanna do meat, you call me about schedule. I just need cutters.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Martin to approve the Headwaters Foundation budget request along with an accompanying letter. Second by Carol. Any further discussion? Being none, all's in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, Dana.
Thank you. I should have brought you guys zucchini.
Thank you, Jordan.
Pass up. Bye, guys.
We'll move into executive session, I think, for the next legal update.